Welcome everyone, my name is Matt.
I'm Wes.
And we are really excited to chat with you about ChatGPT. See what I did there?
Oh my goodness.
I'm full of it today. We're going to discover and explore how you can use it for your role at your church. But before we go any further, let's go ahead and talk about the YouTube channel. We've got a great YouTube channel that we would love for you to subscribe to. This video that we're doing right now, we will post that on the YouTube channel here very soon, in a day or two. We've got videos on everything to do with exploring your ChurchTrac account and other really fun videos we've been doing over the past year or so.
Yeah, but one of my favorite resources going beyond YouTube is our Facebook group. That is such a great resource, not even just for ChurchTrac, but just talking about all kinds of other things like ChatGPT. Or one church was talking about insurance the other day, and some other leaders are helping them find insurance for their church.
Nice.
Really great resource.
All right, and also, whenever you're in your ChurchTrac account, in the top right-hand corner of the screen, there's always that orange help button. I guess I should say tangerine. That's the official name of the
Tangerine, orange, same thing.
Yeah. If you click that orange help button, this little pop-up window appears. Clicking Ask Us a Question opens up a support ticket to reach our support team with any questions that you have. And Show All Help Topics takes you straight into our user guide, where we have articles explaining how to use every feature of your ChurchTrac account. So head there if you ever have any questions. All right, now that the housekeeping is done, let's talk about ChatGPT.
Why we're here today?
We're here today. We did a live stream, I think it was about a year ago, on ChatGPT, but that was focusing on pastors in particular. And not just pastors in general, but like how to use ChatGPT for sermon prep.
Yes, which, by the way, you should totally watch that one if you are a pastor and you're wanting to look at ways to just make your sermon prep a little bit quicker and everything. I think we did a pretty good job of showing how you can use this tool to do that. But today, we're talking about all church leaders here.
Everything else, yes. Not all of you are pastors. Not that we are against pastors. We love pastors. But it's time to show you how you can use ChatGPT in your role at your church. So shout out to all the secretaries and the admins and the church kids ministry and youth pastors.
Worship
this one's
pastors.
For you. Yes, this one's for you. All right, so let's go. Starting out, Wes, I think you had a question for everybody. So are there any secretaries or admins in the chat? What are some creative tasks that you're asked to do regularly that take a lot of your time?
Yes.
If you don't mind, Wes, go ahead and just drop that into the chat for everybody. What are some creative tasks that the admins, I think there was already even a few people that mentioned that they're the administrator. In fact, I think it was Anita. You were the first person to jump in the chat. Let us know of any creative tasks that take a lot of your time that you're asked to do in your role at your church. And just as an example, so that you kind of understand where I'm coming from, I'll show you how to manage your church's social media pages using ChatGPT.
This is a big part, man, because our social media is a big part of our footprint online, and so we have to utilize it well to reach our people.
And it's a great opportunity to get the word out and invite more people into your church and just let newcomers understand what they're getting into when they walk through the doors of your church. So I've got ChatGPT open on this screen, and I actually already have a prompt created. I'm just going to copy and paste this in, but I'll read it off to you as I use this. So what I'm doing in ChatGPT is I've got this prompt. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And I say, I have a sermon outline. Can you write 3 Facebook posts that I can use to promote this sermon? I'll be sharing them throughout the week leading up to the service. I need the post to hint at the content, but leave the reader intrigued to learn more. Can you help me? And ChatGPT is thinking sometimes it takes a moment for it to get going, especially if other people are using it a lot.
Yeah.
And also, I actually already have the outline for the sermon, so I'll be copying and pasting that in here in just a moment. Or actually, I may need to relaunch this. Let's go ahead and refresh this.
And this is a good example of when ChatGPT decides to error out.
Yes.
Because it is a free thing after all if you are using the free tier of ChatGPT. And so sometimes it takes a minute.
Yes. So let's go ahead and reopen this and do it again. There we go. See if we can't prod it to go again. All right. Now, there are 3 Facebook posts to promote your sermon. Now, it's obviously already answering this, and it doesn't even know what my sermon is. I didn't put that in yet. Sometimes it'll do that. It'll kind of jump the gun. But I've got an outline already opened up. Let me go ahead and grab that real quick and copy and paste that in. This will take just a second.
And Matt, I'm going to ask you to make it bigger for my aging eyes. I keep saying I need to buy glasses, and I never do.
Let me zoom back in on that. There we go, just so that everybody can read this. So I have a sermon outline. Can you write 3 Facebook posts that I can use to promote this sermon? Here is my sermon outline. There we go. I've got my sermon outline.
That's
super
a lot
long.
of stuff you just pasted in.
And it's going to take ChatGPT a second just to analyze all that, I'm sure. But what it's going to do is it's going to analyze everything that I just entered and reformat the Facebook post that I just asked it to do a moment ago, but actually include this new data, which includes all of the information from that sermon outline. And it's great because it's going to take us and give us everything we need to add a social media post like, on Facebook, without me having to really think much about it. Obviously, I can take what it does and it'll give me something that I can tweak a little bit and make it actually fit the tone and the character of our church. But then once that's done, I'm done. I don't have to actually think through it.
Yeah.
And that's important because I'm not good at social media.
No, I'm not either. And it's a whole lot to do when you're trying to take a sermon outline and you're trying to generate social media posts that go around this sermon outline that are going to entice your people to check it out and everything and get pumped for that sermon that's coming up. And so it's nice to be able to take a tool like this, you post all that in there, and then it basically does all the work for you with, obviously you want to go back and review stuff and everything, but it does all this work and then it gives you those results that you can then post in those social media platforms.
If it works. So let's go ahead and refresh the page again. All right, let's try this again. Here is my outline. It's apparently a little slow today. And again, this is an important thing, I'm actually using the free version of ChatGPT. I have never paid for a subscription for ChatGPT ever. And that's key because some people, I've talked to a lot of church leaders wondering if it's actually worth subscribing to, because you can do it for free or you can pay, I think it's $20 a month.
It's $20 a month for Plus, yeah.
I've never paid for a subscription for ChatGPT, and it's giving me everything that I've ever asked it to do. Like, it's always worked just fine, even though sometimes it can have little stutters like this.
And I think we're probably going to have to show everyone the screenshots we did ahead of time, because this is one of those random times where ChatGPT is just not working in real time as we need it, which is hilarious.
And that's okay. We were prepared for this.
That's why we prepared. But we actually went ahead of time and asked ChatGPT all these questions.
Yes. So just to go ahead and run through this, what I have is that sermon outline. This is a screenshot of what I was doing just a moment ago. We practiced this ahead of time and I took some screenshots along the way. I have the outline posted here, like I tried to drop in just a little while ago. And it actually gave me 3 really great Facebook posts that I could use to promote this sermon. And it even included emojis and hashtags and everything.
That's crazy,
So
man.
again, you can offload a lot of the work that you're doing onto ChatGPT so that you don't really have to think that hard or spend a lot of time. That's I think the real key with ChatGPT is it's a huge time saver.
Yes.
Then what I did is I actually went even further than saying I want just Facebook posts. I said, all right, thanks. Now give me 5 tweets that do the same thing. Not only did I ask it for Facebook, but I asked it for Twitter, and it did exactly that for me.
And I have to point out, because Facebook and Twitter are very different social media platforms, and it knows that, and so it automatically gave us very small tweets that we can use for that, which is so cool.
And then I asked, now give me a quick 250-word summary of that sermon that I can use in a midweek podcast. I was just playing around just to see what it could do, to give listeners a hint of what to expect in the sermon. And it actually gave me a script. It gave me a thing I could read off if I'm recording a podcast in the middle of the week. I was serving at a church where the pastor would do that. Every Wednesday, he released a new podcast to just make new announcements for what's coming up and also kind of create some anticipation for next week's sermon. So he could use this.
That's so wild.
Just to make it easy for himself and save himself a little bit of time.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, and it's basically just taking the work you've already done in your sermon outline and just repurposing it in different ways.
Yes. And so that's where the real benefit with ChatGPT is it's a huge time saver. All right, so ChatGPT for children's ministry is next. We've covered like using it for administrators. I know there's a few people like you, Belinda. You said you're a part of the church administration and part of the finance team. I see Stephanie. You say you're a co-chair. This is great. I love that there's so many different roles here. Callie, you're the secretary and children's director from Alabama. This is perfect. All right. Are there any children's ministers though? Are there any children's ministry leaders or children's church teachers? What are some things that you were regularly asked to create or plan each week?
Yeah.
I see a lot of children's ministry leaders having to like plan all of their lessons. A lot of times, a lot of churches are even paying subscriptions.
Yes.
Just to have lesson plans created for them.
Lessons plans are not easy to create when you're trying to do this for multiple grade levels and everything. Even if you may only have 3 or 4 kids in each grade level, like you still want to do a good job of preparing a lesson.
Making it
and
biblical,
teaching them.
making it engaging, making it fun, keeping them entertained, and also making sure they have the snacks they need or else they get cranky. ChatGPT can help you with all of that, including the snacks. So, one thing that I was sort of playing around with in ChatGPT was thinking of not only can I have ChatGPT create like lesson plans for me, but go even further and be all-encompassing in everything that it creates and plans for me.
And we'll zoom in just a little bit so y'all can see it, because I know sometimes will it let you zoom in on the...
Oops.
It may not on this.
Nope. So what I did is I said, I'm a children's church teacher. I need help planning a series of lessons for 3 to 5-year-olds on Daniel and the lion's den. Can you help me plan 3 age-appropriate lessons on this topic? I was thinking 3 to 5-year-olds because I got a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, so that's where my head was. And it said, of course, here's some suggested plans for a series of 3 age-appropriate lessons on Daniel and the lion's den. It gave me lesson 1. It even gave me activities like story time, what to do for story time, craft ideas, discussion questions, and even like song suggestions.
Which now that's the first thing I go to as a worship leader.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at the song suggestion, and he says, "My God is so big, and only a boy named David." All right, just making sure like it's not making up songs, because that's one thing you do have to be careful with some of these AI tools.
Yes.
Is if it doesn't know the answer to something, sometimes it just makes things up. Kind of like, that terrible person in college that was on your team with you maybe, and they would just make things up, and you're like, no, we're going to get a bad grade in this class.
Well, another reason why is because like ChatGPT essentially, it does what it calls hallucinates, which means like all ChatGPT is doing is it's taking all the information that it's been trained on, which OpenAI, the creator of ChatGPT, used like millions of different data inputs from the internet in ChatGPT to train it how to talk like humans, and it's just repeating patterns that it sees elsewhere. It's not actually logically thinking through and understanding anything. So sometimes it'll like piece different things together to create one answer, and it'll be like an amalgamation of things that don't actually exist.
Yeah.
So you do have to be careful and check what it gives you against things that you know to be accurate and true. So after that, I went even further. I didn't just ask for like lesson plans. I also asked, like, can you give me some fun activities that the kids can do to get them moving and interactive and are related to the 3 lessons above? And it gave me 3 lessons activity ideas per lesson. So I actually have like options to choose from beyond just hey, here, you should do this.
And what's so wild about this is, like, obviously not all of these activities are going to be activities you're going to read and be like, yes, I want to do that. Like, some of them are going to be like, what? This is weird. But it will generate new ones each time. And that's one thing we were playing with earlier this week, and just looking at all these different activities that it just seemingly would just kind of pull out of nowhere.
Yes.
But we know it ultimately comes from the entirety of the internet, and it's just gathering all this information and giving it to us in this format.
Yes,
It's wild.
That's what's wild, but also incredibly helpful and handy. So after asking it for some really fun activities that kids can do to get them moving, I even thought through like what else is there that a children's minister might need in a lesson that would help them understand and plan everything. And I thought, what are some easy snack ideas that can tie into these themes? Because these are little kids, these are 3 to 5-year-olds. Like as a parent of 3 kids, I understand the importance of just having easy snacks to toss at them whenever they're
My
they're
2-year-old
cranky.
is at that point where it's just like snack, and I'm like, okay, so this is good stuff to have.
Yeah, so it gave me like lion face fruit plate, so you can arrange the fruit in a shape of a lion's face. Pretzels.
Wait, no, prayer pretzels, not just pretzels.
Yeah. Courage cookies. Lion paw prints with peanut butter and almond butter sandwiches and stuff like that. I love it. So it's like it offloads so much thought and mental work that I'm going to have to do, because I am not a crafty person. Like, my wife is really good at arts and crafts, and she's really great with the kids. We homeschool, and we do it with a few other families, and she's the one that like comes up with all of that stuff.
But this is even a tool like someone like your wife could really just see, man, this is going to save me a lot of time. And even taking things to the next level, Matt, if we wanted to, you could start asking it things like, okay, I like these snack ideas, but then I want some snack ideas that are healthy, or I want snack ideas that are gluten-free. Like you could take things even beyond this and get more specified if you need to.
Yes.
And still have like prayer pretzels, except, you know, it's the different thing of prayer pretzel, whatever.
Yeah, and it's helpful just because, especially if you're, like Wes was saying, if you're already really good at this, it's still okay to use ChatGPT to do some of the work that you're doing for your ministry. And the reason why is because at the end of the day, like it can be exhausting to have to do this week in and week out.
Yeah.
Like I'm not creative enough to think of enough. I could do this for like a week or two.
Yeah.
But after a few weeks of this, I'm already
Tap me out,
dry
coach.
of all the ideas I could possibly leverage for this ministry or this role. If that's you, or if you're really good at many aspects of your job, but there's some things that potentially you need a little bit of extra help with, ChatGPT is a great tool for this. Actually, ChatGPT is working now. I apologize for the interruption in the service earlier, but I actually have ChatGPT up, so I'm going to use ChatGPT going forward for the prompts here. So after children's ministry, like not only do I have some really great snack ideas, but I even went further than asking just for simple snack ideas. I asked, can you do the same, but give me really healthy snack ideas? Because there's a lot of kids that like their parents want them to have something healthy and they would be excluded if we didn't include that. But then also there are some that like have different allergies or different dietary needs, you know, different dietary restrictions. ChatGPT can spit out some really great ideas for like organic snacks or just fruit and vegetable snack ideas opposed to just using candy. And it looks like ChatGPT still isn't working. That's amazing.
The one time we want to show everyone it's down.
Yeah, and we apologize for this. It was working earlier this morning, but I guess other people are using it, and so its servers are a little bit slow. And again, because I'm using the free version, it's also probably prioritizing some of the paid users. So we'll go ahead and just use that slideshow again. All right, so after asking for the healthy snack ideas, let's talk about...
I think youth ministry would be a fun one. Yeah.
Yes. So for youth ministry, I said in a prompt, I am a youth pastor at a church with 25 kids in the program. And again, I specify 25 kids. That's important. We'll actually get to some pro tips a little bit later today, and we'll explain why this is key. I'm preparing a message on answering Jesus' call to follow me in a world that wants to distract them from their mission. What are some fun indoor youth group games I can plan for my church youth group that will help reinforce that message? And it said, here are some indoor youth group games that can help reinforce the message of following Jesus amidst distractions. It gave me like a Bible verse relay, a distraction obstacle course, follow the leader, a scripture scavenger hunt. I guess it's probably like a sword drill. So it gave me some really great ideas. And we even went further when Wes and I were planning this out and trying out different things for what to show you guys. We asked it like, can you give us ideas for kids that are like less athletic or a little shy and don't want to participate in stuff like this or things like that? And it gave me different alternatives for things that are a lot calmer and can be done just in a room together rather than running around the gymnasium and being loud, or running around the field outside and getting all dirty and sweaty.
Or even using it for situations when maybe you have some kids that aren't able to get active like all the others. And
like if you've got kids that are handicapped, or even kids that are just recently hurt and on crutches. Yeah. Like you need to have something that can be inclusive for their needs. ChatGPT can give you answers and ideas for that.
When I was a kid in youth, a lot of us were in casts and crutches and stuff because we were
dumb.
Yeah, so we were doing a lot of silly things. And so, being able to even think of ideas for those who can't get involved is great too.
So if you're a youth leader, think of some things that you are regularly asked to create or plan each week. Chances are you can jump into ChatGPT and ask it for some ideas that will help reduce the amount of time you spend every single week making those plans or creating that stuff. Because ChatGPT will scour the internet for all the ideas that others have come up with and suggest those to you. So you're basically, it's like your little brain trust.
Yeah.
Think of ChatGPT as your little ministry brain trust that you can consult every now and then.
And it's the weirdest thing is that it's this whole new way of searching, because for many of you, just to kind of take a brief pause And a lot of you today are looking at ChatGPT for the first time. You've never even seen it, because we did a poll, and it was like roughly half of people that were attending this today have never used ChatGPT for their church. And so it's a very different way to search things. When you're Googling things or Binging or whatever platform you're using, you're always pulling up some sort of web page that's answering that question, at least to the best of its ability. But when you're using a tool like ChatGPT or even Gemini with Google, I mean, they're all very similar. These platforms are basically taking the entirety of the internet and trying to have a conversation with you about everything it knows about the internet.
Yes.
Which is kind of a weird world we live in now.
But it's also not. Like, you could go on to social media and ask questions there and get similar answers because you're outsourcing to a large group of people with different ideas.
Yes.
This is all of that consolidated into one tool rather than you having to run to different platforms and ask the same question over and over again, and hopefully a few people will give you a good answer.
Well, even like things like Pinterest, which is a super popular tool. And I know where are my Pinterest folks out there, you use Pinterest to find all the different snack ideas and things we were showing earlier. I think that's what's so neat about this is this does make it to where if you're using a bunch of different platforms, whether it's Pinterest for snack ideas and different Bible study ideas, but then you're in a couple Reddit groups or something like that because you're talking to other church leaders about this and that, this is able to kind of take all those things into one, so to speak. Yeah.
Now I see a few questions in the chat asking for like design ideas. Like Ronnie, you asked how could ChatGPT be used to redesign the church's brochure? Ronnie again asked design signage and flyers. And also Community Reformed Church, you said that the paid version, ChatGPT 4.0, provides illustrations and pictures upon request. You can use ChatGPT for images, but it's probably not going to be used for something like designing flyers and brochures and signage. That we recommend using another tool called Canva. That's going to be more for like actual visual design and stuff like that. ChatGPT will just give you an image, but Canva will allow you to actually customize and basically do similar to what Photoshop would allow you to do, but it's a lot easier to use.
Yeah, and Ronnie, you're talking about like designing signage and flyers. Since ChatGPT is text-based, that's where it's going to shine for you, is being able to have it generate the content that you're wanting to put on your sign or your flyers and things like that. The image part of ChatGPT, so they're talking about the paid version, which is 4.0. It's interesting because you can have it create images for you, but I have found that creating realistic images is just something, it's not quite there yet. It still looks borderline kind of weird. But if you're trying to create a very artistic type of image, like maybe you want to create an image of like a person reading their Bible that's like sitting on top of the world or something ridiculous, like you can create that kind of stuff. And some of those things I actually have seen churches on social media do, and they've put it out there, and it's kind of cool.
To be able
to do
so
that.
It honestly, like, it really just depends on your use case and your exact needs and your ability to prompt ChatGPT to give you the exact results that you're looking for. That's actually honestly a key to using ChatGPT, is learning how to prompt it better. It's not like Google. You can't just ask a basic question and then Google spits out a lot of different links that might have the answer to the question, and you have to actually click through those links and read. ChatGPT is more conversation based. It's meant to chat back and forth like a person, as if you're talking to someone in a live chat situation. So you have to ask it more fine-tuned questions. And the better your questions, the better its responses will be. And the more detail you give it, the more it'll actually give responses that are relevant to your needs and do what you need it to do.
And I think Zach has a really good question, and I think this needs to be addressed. Do you think Gemini AI by Google is better than ChatGPT, since Google is the giant search engine?
So far, no. I think it will be. I think Google will kind of find their footing in the generative AI world. But as of right now, ChatGPT has been doing this longer, and they're better at it.
But things can change so rapidly.
Things can change. I mean, Gemini had a big fiasco a while back with some of the training that they put it through and the responses that it created, and it was a little weird. They had to pull it down and redo some things just to make it better. So they're still figuring things out. But again, like you're suggesting, they are the big search engine. And honestly, like a lot of the things that we use ChatGPT for are to help us like be more visible in Google. So yeah, like Google eventually will have a better tool for that than some outside source like ChatGPT. But as of right now, OpenAI has the best tool. Just stick with that until other tools improve.
Yeah, as long as it works when you're trying to make it work.
Yes, yeah, as long as it works. Honestly, like this is again a pretty good example of the difference between paid and not paid. If you're patient, this will resolve itself. It'll probably like work right after we're done with this workshop, this live stream, and go back to working just fine. So if you're on the free tier and you're running into situations like this, just check back in an hour or two, and usually that's resolved and you can use that tool again. So it's not really that big of a deal. I've never felt compelled to pay for ChatGPT, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, and for me, I found that like the paid version, it's just faster. And GPT-4, the paid version, sometimes it can give you better answers if you're prompting it more, which we're going to talk more about in our pro tips. Matt, let's get into a realm where I think it's safe to say a lot of us as church leaders, like this isn't a realm we're super good at, a lot of us, church fundraising.
Yes.
Let's talk about church fundraising, because this is kind of one of those things where all churches were needing to fundraise at different times for different things. And I think ChatGPT really just does a good job.
Just show of hands, who here is naturally great at fundraising?
Yeah, like I'll ask in the chat. Like,
I'm not either. I have a hard time asking for money in any context, whether it's I need $20, I need someone to spot me $20, or I need someone to donate to like some righteous cause. Let us know in the chat what's the hardest part about asking for donations or raising money for your church. What I did is I was thinking through fundraising, because I know that's a struggle for a lot of churches.
Yeah.
Is just having enough funds to continue operating and doing the work that God's put in front of you. So what I did is I created a little scenario for myself, and in ChatGPT I said, I'm a pastor of a Christian church and I'm planning a Vision Sunday where I'll share my vision for the year 2024 with the congregation.
I have to stop you right there.
Oh.
I just want to make it a point for us to acknowledge how you just started this. You're telling ChatGPT, I'm a pastor of a Christian church.
Yes, I stipulated Christian. It seems silly for us to think through that we have to. But you have to for ChatGPT.
And then you go forth to saying, and I'm planning a Vision Sunday where I'm going to share the vision for 2024 with our congregation. Yes. All right, continue. All right.
I'm launching a fundraising campaign where I'll ask members to pledge to donate to the church throughout the year. The theme for 2024 will be Follow Me, echoing Christ's call for us to follow him. I'm not good at asking for donations. Can you create a script for me to follow at the end of this message as a call to action to pledge donations to the church? I need it to fit the theme of Jesus' call to follow me. And it gave me paragraphs of a script that I could use as the wrap up to a sermon. And again, you don't have to use exactly what ChatGPT gives you. You can copy that, paste it into another document, and just make whatever changes you need to make so that it fits your tone and your personality and the character of your church, and it feels a little more natural to deliver, so it doesn't feel like you're a robot reading a script. That's key to what using ChatGPT is for. Like, again, giving it everything you have and being very specific with your requests, but also you don't have to rely on it like that. It's not a crutch. You can use this for just giving you some structure and some really good ideas, but then change what it gives you so that it's more natural to your own needs. But I went even further. Instead of just asking for a basic script, I said, hey, now summarize that in 125 words so that I can use this in an email that I'll send Sunday morning to coincide with the service. I want this summary to reiterate the main points of the call to action above, but in a way that is really stirring and immediately captivating. And it gave me like a 3 to 5 sentence paragraph to use in an email.
That's perfect, man.
Super perfect.
Yeah.
And like, again, it allows you to take things that you're not naturally good at, and ChatGPT is naturally good at lots of things, like how to communicate, how to stand out online, how to like get the word out on social media. It's been trained on all of these things, so you can rely on it for what it's good at to cover over some areas where you struggle with.
And talking about fundraising, I thought one really good use case that I've seen recently, I have a friend who's raising funds to go on a mission trip this summer, and they've never raised funds to go on a mission trip. And they Googled a little bit of like email templates to use for missionary fundraising and stuff. and they just weren't finding stuff that really jived with them. And so they actually used ChatGPT for this. And they told ChatGPT, hey, I'm going on a mission trip. Here's where I'm going. Here are the dates I'm going. Here's how much I need to raise. Here are the people that we're going to be serving in this mission trip. Really prompted ChatGPT with all these things, and then said, hey, could you give me a couple emails, the first one being my initial email, and then the next one being an email that I send out later. And then could you give me a couple emails for the people that have said, hey, they're going to pray for me, but they're not going to give. And then could you give me an email that I can send to people who said they're going to give? And it was incredible. Like he was showing me this template, and I was just like, man, and this is something he was able to do in just a few minutes.
Yeah.
It's something that if you try to sit down and do this from scratch,
it takes you at least 30
hours,
minutes, even if you already know what you're going to write.
Yeah, and for him to be able to pull that and say, all right, I've got all this, I'm going to change some of these things around, but I'm ready to rock, and I've got all these emails ready to go to all the people to do my fundraising. And that's just for fundraising for missionaries. That's just one aspect of fundraising.
Yeah, super easy. This allows you to increase your output in what you're doing without compromising your message, so long as you have the discernment to know to take what ChatGPT gives you and verify it against your own knowledge, and also change it to meet your exact needs. Because these prompts and these responses are never going to be exactly perfect. They're just going to they're going to shave 30% or 40% of the work that you have to do and the time you have to spend, so that you have time to do more and better things. In fact, that's actually one of our main pro tips for ChurchTrac, or for ChatGPT, is that the better your prompts, the better your results. Always have more thorough prompts that will give you better results. Like what I was showing you earlier in that demonstration, where we were literally telling it that I'm a pastor of a Christian church, or I have 25 kids in my youth group. That's important because you could have 5 kids in your youth group, or you could have 500 kids. And those two scenarios will require different things from you in terms of what you're thinking through and what you create and what you plan. By telling ChatGPT the specifics and giving it everything, including me just dumping that whole entire sermon outline, that gives ChatGPT everything it needs to put out a response that actually is relevant to your needs and will give you what you want.
Yeah.
Because I've talked to a lot of people who have tried ChatGPT, and I remember my first experience. It was a year ago, back in January of last year, when this really hit the...
this is when a lot of us heard about.
Yeah, when a lot of us first heard about ChatGPT and were trying it out. You type in some requests and it answers them, and you're like, wow! But then after an hour or so of playing around with it further, you're like, this is starting to get kind of lame. All the responses sound the same. It's not actually as helpful as people hyped it up to be. But it turns out that you just have to give it more detail so that it gives you a response that's focused on what exactly you're looking for. So the better your prompts, the better the responses. Also, keep trying. If you don't get the results you want, just ask it another way.
Yes, I have found so many times where I'm trying to get information from ChatGPT, and I'm just not quite getting there, or the results it's giving me are just straight boring, and they all kind of seem similar because...
Yeah, they sound the same.
We'll talk later about how it's not actually creative. And so by prompting it in different ways, and I keep trying in different ways, eventually I'm going to get the information that I'm looking for.
Yes. Now, Ben, you asked, this is a really, really good question. How does ChatGPT, whether free or paid version, compare to Pulpit AI, which is paid? Ben, most tools out there, like Pulpit AI, are just using ChatGPT. You can create, if you're savvy enough, you can create what's called an instance in ChatGPT with OpenAI, where you basically create your own AI model, or I don't really know how exactly to explain this. You create your own model from within AI.
Well, they're leveraging OpenAI's API.
Yes.
And so there are so many very similar AI tools to ChatGPT out there that are actually built on OpenAI's API.
Yes.
And then they're just basically a middleman of using
Yeah, Google. And they do kind of tailor it a little bit to your needs as a minister so that its responses will be more ministry focused rather than generic. But you can avoid having to pay that fee, that subscription fee, by just getting better at prompting.
Yes.
By just telling ChatGPT what you want it to respond with. It'll give you the exact same response that Pulpit AI would. Not to dog on Pulpit AI.
You're paying for convenience. Is really what you're
paying
doing.
for a convenience essentially. You can just use ChatGPT and cut out all those middlemen and use it directly.
Yeah, and just so we're not giving false information, Matt, is Pulpit AI actually using their API with ChatGPT, or are they using something else?
I don't know. That I'm assuming, because I've seen a lot of tools do this.
Yeah, we won't assume in this case. Maybe they have their own thing, but this is something we have seen a lot in this space where a lot of these AI tools are just leveraging OpenAI or Gemini.
Yeah, like OpenAI came out a little over a year ago, and within the last 6 months, there's been this explosion of niche AI tools, but so many of them are literally just using ChatGPT and OpenAI's resources to do what they do. You can cut out those middlemen and just use the thing that they're using directly and not have to pay anything.
Yeah.
All right. Also, again, even though we had this little snafu, the free tier really is fine. Again, I've been using ChatGPT for over a year. I've never paid for it. I've never felt like I needed it.
And the one time it wouldn't work is when we're going live in front of hundreds of people. But
no, stuff like this happens occasionally, even not today. And honestly, again, like I just go, okay, well, I'll just do something else while I wait for their servers, like for them to fix their network, and then I'll come back later. And
make
usually
a coffee.
In an hour or so, it's back up and running, and I can do whatever I intended on doing in the first place. So as long as you're patient, you don't need the paid version of ChatGPT. The free version is fine. Although the paid version is very powerful. It's a lot faster. It's connected directly to it searches the internet directly rather than just uses its training.
It can search the internet directly, but I have found even with that, it's not that great.
But it does include image generation, which is not part of the free plan.
It's not part of the free plan. So if you are wanting to generate images, and like I said earlier, like it's actually really good at generating images that are kind of on the artistic realm. But if you're trying to generate images that are more realistic, it's just not going to do a very good job, and it's going to actually come across as slightly creepy. But I think that's going to change really soon, Matt, because
you think so?
With so many things that OpenAI has been doing, especially with Project Sora, I believe is what it's called, their videos. I think we're about to enter another realm of image generation and stuff that is just going to blow all of our minds.
Yeah.
And you're going to get tired of hearing people say their minds are blown, but it's going to be this continued thing where I think we're going to keep hitting new milestones with what these AI tools can do.
Yeah. I've heard this said elsewhere, so I'm not the one to think of this, but like what generative AI is doing right now, both text and image and video based, is like the worst it'll ever be. It's only going to get better from here. And it's already amazing. It's already very impressive.
Well, it's kind of like the joke when they always come out with like a new iPhone or phone in general. And they're like, this is the best one we've made yet. And like, I hope it is. Like,
hope it's not a step backwards for you. Now, the next couple of pro tips kind of reveal our stance on this. And I think it's insightful for ministry leaders to keep in mind as we use ChatGPT or any similar tool like Gemini and anything else coming out. ChatGPT is not creative. It is just a consultant.
Yes.
It's a brain trust, like I was saying earlier. It's just a tool that you can use to help do the work that you're doing. It's not a crutch. And again, ChatGPT is just a tool, not a crutch. If it will help you be more efficient and increase your creative output and spend less time doing the tedious things that you're maybe not good at. But it won't replace the spirit in you that is creative.
Well, and because if you haven't used ChatGPT much, you will, as time goes and you start using it, if you decide to use this tool, you're going to find that many of the things it spits back at you, they all start sounding the same. Mm-hmm. It's a very, I'm trying to think, if ChatGPT was a person, it would probably be a middle-aged woman who is an attorney for a Fortune 500 company.
No, see, my example, when I explained the output that ChatGPT will put out for you, is it sounds to me like a high school sophomore English paper that would get a B-. That's kind of what its output is on the level of. At least the free version is.
Well,
it
never wants to take a stance, and so it's not going to get controversial in any way. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And then it just has the same kind of way it writes. And you can obviously, with their paid plan, you can have ChatGPT generate like a tone that you want it to have. And like a brand, so to speak. But it's still always going to be kind of this same, just kind of,
Yeah.
You know, and so the initial coolness of ChatGPT and the things it gives you, it does wear off a little bit, but it's still incredible in just the sheer amount of information and research it can do for you to then let you be creative with that conglomerate of all this information that it's brought to you so quickly.
Yes.
And then you can then go from there and hit the ground running, which is what I love.
Community Reformed Church, they said, I consider ChatGPT to be like a research assistant. That's actually something we really hammered on in the last one that we did, the ChatGPT for pastors. You can use it for like sermon research, just letting the knowledge of the internet, the collective knowledge of humanity, inform some of the things that you're researching and learning about. So it's a great use case for that. So thank you very much for sharing that.
And I guess Sarah was saying you can also tell the free version what tone and style you want. I think with the paid version you can actually have it remember it and everything and create those apps within it. But yeah, so it is pretty wild how you can tell it, you know, I want you to explain this as if I'm a 5-year-old, or I want you to explain this, you know, as if you were talking to a room full of, you know, 15-year-old youths that were getting ready to go on a mission trip. You know, like there's so many different ways you can prompt it, which is pretty nuts.
Yep. And you can even like, you can like give it worship lyrics and ask it to rewrite this in the style of like Elvis or David Bowie or something like that. Like you can have a lot of fun with ChatGPT if you got some time to waste.
Well, and that kind of getting into the realms of worship. So like I've talked to a lot of worship leaders, and we have all like talked about ChatGPT ever since it came out, because that was one of the first things we all looked at, is like using this to help with songwriting and stuff. And what's so funny, and it's kind of a scary thing, most of the songwriting sessions happening for like a lot of big names out there, I won't say who these names are, most of them are using ChatGPT to write their song lyrics, which kind of bums me out, because like I'm just like, man, let's get back to the basics of the Word of God. But still, it is kind of cool to see like this tool can help you with lyrics. And I always liken it to, well, if I'm a worship leader and I want to make like a funny song to get all the kids ready for like our youth camp that's happening, like this is a good tool for that.
Yes.
I would endorse it for that. Making worship music for my entire congregation for entering the throne room of God, not so much.
Nope.
But making a funny song getting ready for youth camp, all day, every day.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great use for ChatGPT, to be honest, just to have a little bit of fun. All right, well, if you have any questions, go ahead and add them into the chat. I know that there's probably a handful that have been put in that we have overlooked, but we would love to chat further about ChatGPT with you and answer any questions that you have, because we talk to church leaders all the time. In fact, we do one-on-ones with church leaders on the phone or over Zoom. And a lot of times ChatGPT gets brought up just because it's something that a lot of pastors and leaders are hearing about online or in the news, especially with like AI is even creating a whole little like industry around itself. Yeah. And it's growing in value. It's not going to change. It's not going to go anywhere. It's amazing. So go ahead, and if you still have any questions, go ahead and drop them in. We'll definitely explore like what else we can use ChatGPT for. And again, I apologize that we can't demonstrate it live like we were hoping to, but hopefully some of the things that we've talked through and shown in that slideshow demonstrate and give you some ideas for how you can use it at your church.
I will go ahead, and because so many church leaders are thinking, should I go with the paid version if I did want to use this tool? I mean, to be honest, if I were in your shoes wanting to utilize this tool for a lot of the basics that we just showed, there's zero reason to go to the paid version of ChatGPT. And in fact, I mean, I'm even struggling to find a reason for me to have the paid version. And I use it every day, multiple times a day. And I even am struggling to find a reason because, like you said, the free version is typically, with the exception of today, it's typically just as fast, and it's going to provide you with great information that you need to help you with whatever project it is you're working on.
Yeah. Now, Bethany, you asked, I often help with worship planning. Can ChatGPT help me with themes? Help determine which songs can go together?
Yes.
Yes.
I've done that before. It's pretty cool.
Like if you were to, in a prompt, list out all the songs that you're considering, or just give it a really long list of, let's say, like 10 songs, and ask it, say, could you please sort these by similar, like identify the themes that are covered in these songs and sort them by theme? Yeah, and it can do it in seconds. I've not done it with songs, but I've done it with other content, just asking it to sort it by some sort of theme or topic. And it does a really great job of identifying that.
Well, and even being able to do something like, all right, you have ChatGPT open, you're in the midst of planning your worship service, whatever, and you're like, man, it'd be nice. I want a hymn that focuses on the blood of Christ and, what that cost was and everything. Mm-hmm. And then you could just ask it, hey, give me a really good hymn that has this focus, and it's going to give you those hymns. Or, hey, give me a recent, worship song that was written about this.
Yes.
And then, or you could give it a list like, hey, here's all the worship songs that, we have done this year so far. Could you tell me which ones would go best with a sermon series on this? Or now this is a feature we already have in our software. Like we have a song usage report in ChurchTrac that'll tell you like how many times you've played a song, every week and stuff like that. But I have actually seen people like put in their set list from like the entire year and be like, which songs did I do too much or whatever. And so I mean, it's kind of wild. How many? Yeah. You dream it, you think it, you can probably put that into ChatGPT and have it help you with whatever that question is you're trying to get the answer to.
And there's really no end to what you can ask ChatGPT to do for you. Honestly, it's part of the reason why Google came out with a generative AI tool like Gemini and why they're inserting generative AI into their main search engine is because so many people were leaving Google and going to ChatGPT for questions.
Yeah.
Because it's conversational. Instead of forcing you to like read through several links to find the answer, it just hands it to you. So honestly, I recommend using ChatGPT a lot, not just because it can help you work more efficiently and get more done, or at least get things done faster, but it can also just be a really handy time-saving tool for just finding the answers to questions that you have, rather than having to do a lot of searching and reading and scrolling.
Yeah, well, and because it's not relying on a single web page to give you the answer. Sometimes you're looking for an answer that is not really on a web page, but it's something that someone who has knowledge in that area would know the answer to.
Yes.
Well, ask a tool that has all the knowledge of the internet up to 2021, I think it is right now.
I think so, yeah.
And it's going to be able to give you an educated answer,
yeah,
which is kind of wild.
Yeah, and it'll take the answers in all those different resources and put them into one answer in one place so that you don't have to continue searching.
And Kim, you had a good question. Is this this is the first time I've heard of ChatGPT, and I'm intrigued. How is this intertwined with ChurchTrac, or is it not? It is in no way intertwined with ChurchTrac, and we don't even really endorse ChatGPT, so to speak. But it's one of those things where, because so many church leaders are using it, we felt the need to really show how you as a church leader can use this tool for your ministry in ways that are actually going to push the gospel and build the body of Christ.
Yeah, we get a lot of questions about it. We ourselves have checked it out and we found different ways that we use it, but it's not something that we endorse, even though this whole video has been us like encouraging and showing you how you can use it. It's not an endorsement, it's just an explanation for how you can use it as a tool if this is something that you're interested in. But again, our stance is we are impressed by it. We use it ourselves for just coming up with ideas or being more efficient.
Yeah.
But it's not something that we embrace. We embrace it with a lot of trepidation and hesitation.
And if it were to disappear tomorrow, it wouldn't radically change how we do things. And I think that's probably a good gauge. Do you think, Matt, to say like, am I using not just ChatGPT, but any tool?
Yeah.
Am I using this tool too much? Well, if that tool were to disappear tomorrow, is it going to radically affect how you are bringing the gospel to your community at your church? And if the answer is yes, then you might be using that tool a little bit too much, all with the exception of obviously the Word of God and prayer and everything else like that.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to technology, because I think technology is always a tool, and if it's starting to own you and you're starting to depend on it too much, then like we said earlier, it's a crutch. You shouldn't use it. Yeah.
Now, Callie, you asked, do I have to download ChatGPT or do I just open it using a web browser? It's just on a web browser. You go to chat.openai.com and then create an account. And all you need to do, Andrea, you asked how much personal info is required. You just need an email address. That's it. That's all they ask for.
Yeah. And talking about personal information, I think while we still have a lot of people in here hanging out, I just want to really reiterate, anything you put online can be used by anybody for that matter. So be very careful the information you feed into a tool like ChatGPT. In fact, Gemini, which is Google's version of ChatGPT, they have a little disclaimer. Actually, it's a big disclaimer. They put it like right on the front page of it, like do not put any personal information. So if even Google is saying don't put personal information in this, that's a good reason to not put personal information. So you never want to put personal information of anybody at your church or other people associated with you or anything like that. That is not a good thing. And they may still have it on theirs, or did they change their policy?
No, so your conversations. I just pulled up Google Gemini. We can show this on the screen real quick. It says your conversations are processed by human reviewers to improve the technology powering Gemini. Don't enter anything you wouldn't want reviewed or used. Yeah. And frankly, even aside from that, aside from like human reviewers checking it out, like in ChatGPT, you're still like anything you put in ChatGPT is still training its model. So like whatever personal information you input into ChatGPT will then be fed into its giant brain. Its processors, and it'll use that for future responses, not just in your account but others. So don't share personal information of yours or anyone else's at your church in ChatGPT or Gemini or any of these other tools, just for basic security purposes.
And Belinda, you had a good point here. You recently started the marriage ministry at your church, and everything you do from scratch, been there, done that, not in marriage ministry, but just ministries in general. And you've never even thought about using this kind of platform, and so it'll be your first time using something like this, and you're not sure how to even start to use this to become more creative with your new ministry. It just starts with asking it questions, really, and that's how I use it every single day when I'm using these types of generative tools. Is I basically, it always starts with a question that I'm trying to get an answer to, and so I start asking those questions. And sometimes it's not going to have that exact specific question, but I can at least get close to that answer by asking it other questions. Kind of like the game 21 Questions, is it? You just keep asking the questions
until you figure out what exactly they're thinking of. Also, this is something that was brought up earlier, and I apologize for missing it. There was 2 or 3 questions I saw about copyright, questions around copyright. That's kind of a murky subject in the sense that Google or these tech companies have gobbled up a lot of content, whether it be written content, like in print or online, and then used it to train their models to understand how people talk.
Much of that is copywritten content as well.
A lot of it is copywritten content. As of right now, it's in very much a gray area regarding whether or not that's something that they were allowed to do, and also what that means for people who then use that for their own creative output, whether they're writing or preaching or anything else. So definitely keep that in mind. It's not something that we have a solid answer on, because right now that's like being settled, or
in many courts they're talking about this right now.
They're sorting that out right now.
And one thing I will tell you, because I know this for certain, if you are using a tool like this to create a song, that song is not, you're not actually able to copyright that. So they could actually go back and say, no, this was created with ChatGPT, so therefore you can't copyright that song. So it's a weird realm that we're in, where you can have a tool like this.
We're just in the infancy stage. We're in the early stages where so much is kind of up in the air and isn't settled yet.
But it is fun.
It is fun. It is kind of we're in the Wild West, I guess you could think of, in terms of this technology.
I mean, it brings me back to the days, of 2000 and probably early, 2000, right? The .com bubble.
Oh, the .com bubble?
And like where things were just getting crazy on the internet. And I feel like I'm reliving those late 90s, early 2000s through this boom of AI. It's just a different thing, but it's still a very similar situation we're going through.
Yeah, and there's somebody that you follow, Neil Patel, that even like laid it out once, where he said, there's a lot of these AI tools that are cropping up right now. In a few years, most of them won't exist anymore.
Correct.
And the reason why is because the big players like ChatGPT and Google and maybe a few others, they'll be the ones that'll establish themselves, and they'll start incorporating all these other features and use cases into their tool that all these other niche companies are doing, so that they kind of drown them out. And so most of these small companies probably won't even exist anymore, or they'll just get bought up even by these bigger ones. So honestly, like, the dust hasn't cleared yet. This is all still very new. Here pretty soon, in the next like 3 years, we'll kind of see exactly what the future of this tool and this realm will be.
Yeah. And we're always going to stay on top of this because partly it's our job to, in ChurchTrac and knowing this. And as new revelations, new features, new things come about, we're going to be the first to try to get this out here to you all to keep you in the loop because, we have the luxury of, getting the insight from all these churches and working with churches and seeing all these different tools. A lot of times before your average church leader even knows about them, you're busy doing ministry. You're not sitting here trying to constantly read the headlines, knowing what's going on with ChatGPT or just AI in general. You're trying to win souls in the name of Jesus. And so part of our job is to kind of, keep in tune with all that so we can kind of keep you up to speed when big things happen and stuff so you're aware of these tools and different ways that you can utilize them for your ministry.
On that note, definitely subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's where we do a lot of the work and share a lot of these tools and resources. We'll record videos and share them there so that you can learn more about what tools are out there and other resources that you can use in your ministry and in your role at your church. So go to youtube.com, search ChurchTrac Software, and subscribe to our channel to stay up to date on everything that we're doing there. Also, join our Facebook group. If you're a user of ChurchTrac, we would love to see you in the Facebook group so that you all can share you can go there and ask what other tools other church leaders are using, or you can share what you're using and start that conversation and learn more about how other churches are doing ministry in other contexts.
Yeah, and that's a great place where I like to share things that I come across, different tools. I'll be sharing some later this week that I found that I think you'll get a kick out of. So.
All right, well, I really enjoyed chatting with you about ChatGPT. I hope you all learned and were inspired for ways that you can use this tool in your ministry. And we look forward to chatting with you again in the near future. Bye.